Question 28 of the Book of Questions. What is your most treasured memory? Oh, good. It's a nice short one. Will this be a short video, though? Let's see. Right, so what is my most treasured memory? Well, yes, I suppose this is a bit like, if your house is on fire, what is your most treasured thing that you're going to rescue from the fire? And apparently the commonest answer to that one is photographs. People say, oh, we'd rescue our photographs, which I suppose is sort of pertinent here in that rescuing your photographs is a bit like rescuing your memories. So clearly memories themselves are treasured things, although of course people tend to photograph things that they are considered to be particularly important to remember. So if villains have broken in and have captured me somehow and are going to wipe my entire memory, but cunningly I realise that I have an opportunity to just salvage just one memory from the clutches of their evil, what would that memory be? Given that I've just been captured by villains and I'm about to have my memory wiped, things are presumably not going terribly well. And my future self is probably in a much better position than I am now to decide what's likely to be useful in his future. So I'll leave that to him. But I'm thinking now about what's likely to be more useful in my future if I lost all my memories bar one. I would say that the most useful thing is probably an ability to speak English. Yes, I need to be able to remember how to speak English because language, I would say, is probably like the master skill. If you know one skill, know how to communicate, because with that you can get all the other skills. So assuming I'm still basically as intelligent as I am now, someone could show me how to use the internet. Oh, I see, what's this, a mouse? Okay, and oh, I see, it moves like that, and click click. Oh, that's how you use a computer. And then I could watch all my old videos if they've not been wiped as well. Oh, if they wiped all my, the swines. Anyway, but the internet, let's imagine, will still be there. Or if the COVID-19 restrictions and government cutbacks are lifted, then maybe the libraries will open again. Essentially, with language, I can get books, the internet, reading, and I could talk to people. I could get help from other people. I'm going to need a lot of help. We humans rely on a lot of people, and if I don't know who the heck I am or how I got here or where I live or anything like that, then yeah, I'm going to need some help. So language is going to make that so much easier. Yeah, language is the master skill. But I can imagine that some of you are grumbling and saying, wait a minute, you're not answering the question in the spirit. The treasured memories are not a skill. It's particularly not English. Like loads of people speak English. That's not some memory that's going to die with you if you were to die tomorrow. You're not the sole custodian of English, for instance. There'll still be English if you die, Lloyd. No. A treasured memory is something specific to you. It may be an event that happened in your specific past, witnessed perhaps only by you or by just a very few other people. And that should be a treasured memory. It's not skill. I mean, for a start, autobiographical memory and skills like language are stored in different parts of the brain. So it is actually perfectly biologically feasible for you to lose all your autobiographical memory and still be able to speak. So there you go. You could say, that was a cop-out of an answer, though I think, still it's a philosophical, interesting point. Yeah, and the ability to speak is probably the one to go for. But all right, treasured memory, and it would have to be something that actually happened to you. I mean, I really like movies, and I really like Raiders of the Lost Ark. But if my only memory was of that time that I stopped the Nazis getting the Lost Ark of the Covenant, then I think my future life would be rather difficult. I'd be very confused. That shouldn't be it should be something that actually happened to me in real life. That's what they mean by a treasured memory. Because when someone asks, what's your most treasured memory, they want a bit of your personal autobiographical past. That's what they're really asking for. Language. All right, fair enough. So what would be the most useful part of my autobiographical personal past to remember? Well, you might say you should pick something that was your most formative experience, the thing that made you become the person that you are today, or at least were before you lost all your other memories. And yes, I could see why that might be something that some people would pick, but I would counsel against that for several reasons. One is that why am I trying to get back to the person that I was? I mean, should I not embrace this chance to just start anew? Isn't that good? I mean, to be honest, my life hitherto has not actually been consistently crowned with successes. I have no children, so I failed in biology's prime mission. So already you could class my life as a failure for that reason alone. And I was unemployed for a significant stretch of time. When I was a dance teacher, to be honest, I was never really a top-ranking dance teacher. I just sort of muddled along. My career was not exactly stellar as a dance teacher. No, and I failed repeatedly to get television programs that I wanted to make made, and ended up being a YouTuber, which fortunately has led to nice things, such as my getting to talk to you like this today. But most of my life hitherto has not really been crowned in glory, so I don't think really I should be trying to get back to the person that I was. Maybe I should, start again. So that's one reason, but there are other reasons too. One is that, well, you can approach it from the nature or the nurture side. If you go with, say, nature, you could say, well, actually, do you know what? All these experiences, we all go through near enough the same experiences. We all have triumphs and defeats. We all try to make friends, lose friends, learn things, find things difficult. Everyone experiences all of those things. And it's really how we, our innate selves, react with those experiences that we all have that determines how we end up. And twins reared apart end up having pretty much the same personalities. In fact, a lot of twins reared apart end up more similar than those reared together, because those reared together had an incentive to cultivate difference with their other half, whereas those reared apart didn't have that pressure, and so were perhaps more true to their true selves and ended up being, the same as each other. They turned out having lived different lives, gone to different schools, being brought up by different parents, eating different food, having different siblings and so forth. They had completely different childhoods, and yet, they end up pretty much the same, because that's the sort of person they are, which is, I would say, a fairly cheery thought. But if you think that that's nonsense, and you much prefer the nurture thing, and you say that, oh, no, humans are actually the sum of all their experiences, it's your childhood that makes what you're like in your adulthood, well, then memorizing one thing is not going to help, is it? I mean, for a start, it's cherry-picked by you and is incredibly unlikely to be the thing which actually made you become the person you were. Yes, you'd end up with a bizarre, skewed personality if you based it entirely on one memory. The idea that you could recreate your past self by just remembering one thing via nurture, if you agree that nurture is the sum of all your experiences, that's not going to happen. So that's not going to work. So whether you come from the nature or the nurture doesn't work. So a formative experience is probably not, I would argue, a useful one to pick. But the diagnostic one, an anecdote from your personal past that illustrates the sort of person that you actually were, I think that's far more useful. I think that could be quite reassuring. So imagine there I am, cast adrift with no memories, trying to work out who the heck I am. I think, people behave oddly towards me in this way, and I seem to be a little bit odd in these ways. Is that because I've lost all my memories? Is that or if I had a diagnostic memory that said, no, actually you were always just like that, I might be, okay, that's just me then. Okay, phew, right, and it's presumably all right to be like that. Although it did, in my case, lead to my having my memory wiped. But that could have been an indirect thing. So, what is a diagnostic artifact? And I have a good one, I think. I was 14 or 15 years old. I can remember whose class I was in. So I'd been 14 or 15, and we went on a school trip. I was in the top English class, and for some reason, someone decided that it would be a good idea that we went into the West End of London to see Children of a Lesser God in a theatre. This was not a play that we were studying for English, and we were never told what we were supposed to do with this trip. But anyway, it was culture or something good for us. It was improving, and so we went. And I think I was unusual in that class in that I was very familiar with going to the theatre. My parents had taken me to the theatre many, many times throughout my childhood, and I'd been in amateur dramatics and musical shows from the age of 6. So I'd been to the theatre a lot. I would even go to the theatre off my own bat with my own money sometimes. So I was very familiar with going to the theatre, and the routine when I went with my parents is that they would buy us all drinks in the interval. Gin and tonic was the communist. And I know that some Americans go, well, hang on, you just said you were maybe 14 or 15. How could you be having gin and tonics in the theatre? Well, yeah, do you know, it was a more relaxed time. And people in Britain and Europe and elsewhere outside America are actually a lot more relaxed about alcohol and younger people drinking it. My parents thought it was a good idea to introduce me to alcohol quite early, and if we had a beef stew, for instance, I might be given a glass of dry red wine to go with that. And my parents believed that if I then went to university and was let off the leash, I wouldn't then go, wow, alcohol for the first time in my life, and then binge drink myself to death, which I didn't. So perhaps it worked. Got a bit off. Oh yeah, I'm at the theatre. Anyway, so we watched the first half, and then came the interval. And now, I happened to be the last person to get out of my seat. This wasn't contrived. Someone had to be last out of their seat, and it happened to be me. So I got out of my seat, and I thought, well, I'll go up to the bar and buy myself a drink. I'd been given some money by my parents for that purpose. So I walked to the bottom of the stairs, and I looked to one side of me, and I saw one of my classmates smoking. And I thought, oh, God, yeah, you could smoke in theatres in those days. Yes, I'm that old. I can remember before the smoking ban. And I thought, oh, he's smoking. Yeah, well, and next to him was one of my other classmates. And I thought, he's smoking. I never would have thought he smoked. And then I looked to my right. He's smoking as well. And yeah, obviously he's smoking. Yeah, but she's smoking? Never would have taken her for a smoker. Oh, and she's smoking. Yeah, and she's smoking. That's not a surprise. And he's smoking. Yeah, and he's smoking. And, right. Anyway, I went to the bar, bought myself a shandy, and which is a very, very, very mild alcoholic drink. You can't really get drunk on shandy. You'd probably drown first. And then watched the second half and went home. Anyway, about 2 years later, I was remembering this incident and thought to myself, I was the only one who made it to the top of the stairs. I was the only one who made it to the top of the stairs. Presumably, what had happened to loads of them was that they saw a few who were lining the stairs smoking, and they thought, oh, I must be seen smoking. I must be seen to be one of the cool guys. And some of them, I remember, were not smoking, but they were very definitely with someone who was smoking and making it really, really clear to everyone that either they were completely fine and at any moment now, I forgot to bring my cigarettes, even though they didn't actually normally smoke. But maybe please give me. And I could see that some of them were begging, so they could just take a few puffs just to show everyone how cool they were. And I was the only one who made it to the top of the stairs. But here's the thing. There was never any danger of my saying, "Oh, quick! Give me a drawer on your cigarette, please," because I just didn't feel any peer pressure at all. There was no effort of willpower in me involved whatsoever. I just thought, the idiots, and went and got my shandy because I quite like shandy. So that, I think, is illustrative of the person that I was anyway. That was sort of me. I'm just someone who just doesn't suffer from peer pressure. You're supposed to, for instance, wear collars that go up and then sort of flip down and come to a point, because that's the only sort of collar that's allowed. But I prefer these rounded ones, so I wear these because I prefer them. And occasionally, actually it hasn't happened for a while, but I can remember in my past that there were people who got really quite anxious. I think it's more of a young person thing, but not uniquely. They got really quite anxious because I was wearing a shirt that was just wrong. I even remember someone, she tried to sort of flip the collar down. You're supposed to wear it like that. How would you know how one is supposed to wear this sort of shirt? You've never seen one of these shirts before. I know, because I made it. But yeah, some people get the pressure to conform is something they really, really feel, and I just sort of don't. And that anecdote illustrates that. I suppose it does actually. I think it's the main thing it's illustrate. It does also possibly illustrate the fact that I was sort of often alone then. I mean, I did have friends in that class, of course, but they were putting being seen to be cool way above in priority being with me. So I just knew, I accepted in situations like that, okay, no one's going to come with me. So I'll just go on my own because that's my only option. So it wasn't that I really chose to be alone particularly. I just sort of accepted that was just, the consequence of being me. So if in the future I've lost my memory and I remember just that one anecdote, I think I would find it quite genuinely explanatory of the way I am and reassuring. Oh no, actually that's sort of the way you are. Yeah, the reason you don't feel this incredible pressure to conform with everyone else like everyone else seems to feel is because you just don't. That's just not you. But now that I've shared a personal anecdote from my personal past, it still could be that some of you are saying, do you know what, he still hasn't answered the question in the spirit of the question, because when people talk about a treasured memory, it's supposed to be a time when you were very happy. That's the rule, these convention-bound people might think. All right, well, I'm aware that this convention exists, so to keep you happy, because I know some of you get anxious if I don't stick to convention. You feel the peer pressure even in that way. I suppose it's connected. That I will, because I did say when I embarked on this project that I wouldn't duck questions. So all right, in the spirit of the perhaps the intention of the writer of this question, I should come up with a memory where I was happy. But there are still problems with trying to remember when you were happy, because like if you try to remember some time when you were feeling just joy, I mean real joy, those times when you come what may, you can't help but just nail a smile to the front of your face because you're just so filled with this emotion of joy. Those times are so rare, aren't they? I mean, the number of times that's happened to me, well, certainly as an adult, I could count on the fingers of one hand probably. So if anything, I'm just reminded of how rare that really intense joy is. But all right, if we tone it down a little bit and say, all right, how about time of like satisfaction is good. Satisfactions are good. Sometimes you felt really satisfied, or you're content, or the pleasure, or those sort of things. They're far more common, and you must surely have a decent one or two of those. Oh, okay, right, yeah. But even then, it's still tinged with sadness, because if there's some time in the past when you were super content and happy, it's almost always going to be more content than you are now. I mean, assuming that you are of an average mood now, if you remember some time when things were really good, it's going to be better than now. And the lingering emotion of remembering better times is sort of sadness that they're not with you at the moment. So the better the memory I pick, the sort of the stronger that bittersweet contrast. But anyway, as I'd say I wouldn't dodge. Okay, I've got one. Quite a few years ago, a lovely young lady moved in with me for a few months, and one has that self-doubt. You never know, do you, whether you can actually make someone else happy. Will I make her happy? Maybe if she moved in with me, I'd start to get on her nerves, and then she'd go off me, or I'd just be a bit rubbish at looking after her and making her happy, and so forth. So there's that self-doubt, that worry. But actually, a little bit annoyingly, it turned out that with her at least, I was actually rather good at this, being her boyfriend thing, and she seemed very happy with the way I looked after her, we spent lots of nice days going places and doing stuff, and it all worked out really quite well. And I can remember a time when, there's no sex involved in this, by the way, we're both fully clothed in this anecdote, just want you to know. She was lying on the bed, and I was, I think, putting something on the stereo, and I went over to join her on the bed, and we carried on talking, and at one point she was just stared up and through the ceiling. This far away look came on her face, over her face, and this beatific smile I saw, and I had this feeling that I could tell what she was thinking. I was pretty good at telling what she was thinking, which meant that with her, at least, I could often say the right thing. But this was something, if I was right, it was something I couldn't really act on. I mean, it would be just so presumptuous. So instead, I took the opportunity to say something funny. Now, granted, this would be a much better anecdote if I could remember what the very funny thing I said was, but unfortunately I can't. This has happened a few times to me. I remember I said something that was just undeniably hilarious. I can't remember what it was, but it was undeniably hilarious. It doesn't make a very good anecdote. But anyway, I said something very funny, and she burst out laughing and then went, "Oh!" Now, somebody can't in this intimate proximity with you when you're the only people in the room and you're talking to each other, burst out laughing at something you said that was really funny, and then go like that, and then you don't ask what's going on there. Then what? So I asked. I said, whoa, what brought that on? What? Why'd you go? And she said, I was just thinking that this was the happiest moment of my life. And then you said something really funny, which made it so much better, which ruined it. Yeah. I think it'll be difficult to top that.